promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, Banjul, Lomé and Ouagadougou, 1 p.m. in Abuja, Porto Novo and Niamey. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. This is Newslink, and here are the top stories. Togolese government justifies a security crackdown on protesters in late June as it tracks down organizers.
What has just happened on June 26, 27 and 28 result from pure manipulation, and this is a result of attempt to destabilize the sub-region.
5 African leaders commenced talks with U.S. President Trump on matters of economic, trade and security cooperation. Ghana's President Mahama receives letter of credence from Portuguese ambassador to Côte d'Ivoire to deepen bilateral relations.
With the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's possible to reach a market size of 1.3 billion people in Africa. And so we believe that forging stronger economic ties and inviting more Portuguese business people to come and do business in Ghana would be a win-win.
And the Federation of Islamic Association of Burkina Faso presents a document to deconstruct terrorist ideology. We do have the guest interview and sports news. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
Christopher Aticho with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners in the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins in Togo, where the government on Wednesday briefed the media during an official engagement to clarify its position on June 26, 27 and 28 demonstrators. The state declared the protest illegal, promising to prosecute sponsors of the nationwide protest, many of whom are social media influencers in the diaspora. Lomé also justified its actions of preventing chaos and public disturbances since the demonstration are banned in the country. Nade Ditete has the rest of the details.
Addressing the press, the Togolese Minister of Territorial Administration clarified the government's position about the June 26, 27 and 28 demonstrations. In one word, the protests were declared illegal. According to Hodabalo Awate, they were banned to avoid public disorder, hence the deployment of law enforcement to prevent the protesters.
What has just happened on June 26, 27 and 28 result from pure manipulation, and this is a result of attempt to destabilize the sub-region. We must not separate this event from what we are experiencing in the Sahel as well as in the Savannah region. It is indeed terrorism when we invite people to free violence.
C'est effectivement du terrorisme quand on invite les gens à la violence gratuite.
The authorities accused diaspora influencers who called for these protests of wanting to destabilize the current regime. The government assures that the organizers will be prosecuted soon. Kalis Mudulba is the Minister of Security and Civil Protection.
These are Togolese citizens here and some abroad who already have arrest warrants issued for them. In no country in the world can we call on the people to mobilize, cause chaos and kill without having them face the law. These countries where these people are living are called to collaborate. There is a judicial operation. When we launch a mandate, it must have a continuation. We will go to the end, wherever they live, and we will get them, because this time, people have gone very far. We are not going to give up.
Lomé invites young people not to give in to the disinformation campaign of the organizers of the demonstrations, which aim to destabilize the state. It should be noted that other demonstrations against the government are announced for July 16 and 17, the eve and the day of the municipal elections.
A report by our Lomé correspondent CV Wadr and voiced by Nade Tete. In neighboring Benin, the assets of Olivier Boko and Oswald Homike have been seized 5 months after their conviction. The bank accounts were also frozen by court order. These former close associates of Beninese President Patrice Talon were sentenced to 20 years in prison last January. They were found guilty of conspiracy against the state authority. More details with Abdoulaye Hassan.
Lawyers for Olivier Boko and Oswald Homike declined to comment on this information. The government has also so far made no statement on the matter. The assets of these former close associates of President Patrice Talon in Benin have been seized on the instructions of the courts. It is currently impossible to determine the exact nature of these assets. The freezing of their assets primarily concerns their personal bank accounts in Benin, but also those they share with their wives and funds at the Deposit and Consignment Fund. These funds will be used to pay the fines they received when they were convicted last January. The two men must pay the court 4.5 billion CFA francs and 60 billion CFA francs in damages. As a reminder, the Court for the Repression of Economic Crimes and Terrorism (CREAT) sentenced them to 20 years of criminal imprisonment for conspiracy against the authority of the state and corruption of public officials.
Aziz Adam Sole's report presented by Abdoulaye Hassan. In Burkina Faso, the Federation of Islamic Association is committed to deconstructing the narratives of armed groups. On Wednesday, the Federation of Islamic Association in Burkina Faso, FAIB, submitted a document entitled Alternative Discourse to the authorities in charge of religious organizations. This discourse is based on the authenticity teachings of Islam. Sankole Janko has the rest of the details.
The Federation of Islamic Associations of Burkina Faso is standing up against the messages of armed terrorist groups. To achieve this, the FAIB has drafted a guide on alternative discourse, which it submitted to the Minister of Religious Affairs. The document, written in Arabic and French, should help Muslim worshippers distance themselves from messages of hate. Boubacar Yogo is a member of FAIB.
We are calling on all Muslims in Burkina Faso and all those concerned with the development of our nation not to join the speech led by the terrorists. We are also calling on the terrorists who have taken up arms to review the document and say that what they are doing is not Islam. The Holy Quran says that the one who kills an innocent person is like killing all of humanity.
Beyond terrorism, the document also addresses hate speech spread on social media. The Federation of Islamic Associations calls for interreligious cohesion.
Islam did not come to separate humans or religions. It came to educate people and live in peace with our fellow human beings. That's why I said that God has honored human beings. He didn't specify a religion. We should be together at all times.
The FAIB is first awaiting approval of this guide before disseminating it in all places of worship nationwide.
A report by WADR's Martin Kaba in Ouagadougou and presented by Sankole Janko. On Wednesday, 5 African leaders began talks with President Donald Trump on his invitation to discuss economy, trade and security cooperation. During the meeting at the White House, Trump began by touting his achievements since assuming office for a second time in January 2025. From Europe to the Middle East, the American leader capped his recent success in the U.S.-Qatar brokered peace deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, what was one of the discussions to be headed by more states about to offer. Emoedet has the details.
President Trump, with his usual mannerisms, surrounded by top senior cabinet members, chaired a meeting at the White House with his counterparts from Senegal, Mauritania, Liberia, Guinea-Bissau and Gabon, stating the significance of the trade partnership.
We've encouraged our staff at the White House to work along with these nations. There's such tremendous wealth there and potential there. We encourage the countries here today to make greater investments in defense and keep pursuing the fight against terrorism, which is a big problem in Africa. Immigration will also be on the agenda, and I hope we can bring down the high rates of people overstaying visas and also make progress on the safe third country agreements.
Liberia, known for rubber, timber and iron ore, says it aims to explore 3 billion investment opportunities, essentially in the extractive sector. Here is President Joseph Boakai.
We want to encourage American involvement in the investment in Liberia. We like to see that happen. We want to work with the United States in peace and security within the region because we are committed to that.
Speaking on behalf of Senegal, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye marketed 2 major ongoing projects in the country to his American counterpart. Faced with terrorist threats from the Sahel, Diomaye Faye also called for security cooperation.
I also wanted to express that Africa supports all efforts to bring back peace to Sudan, Libya, and in the Sahel. As you've seen, you can only do business when there is peace and security, and you build peace everywhere in the world so that there can be better investments.
Except for Guinea-Bissau, Gabon, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal are endowed with oil and gas and other mineral resources such as iron ore, gold, copper, lithium, and rubber. The trade discussions have just begun between the US and 5 African nations, but economists, trade experts are concerned about the terms of engagement or whether the deal ends with a win-win consensus.
Emo Edit filed the report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Nigeria may be up against a new regime of visa regulations by the United Nations of America. Washington, D.C. has announced the decision to slash the validity of non-immigrant visas for Nigerians to a single entry 3-month period. This development is so far drawing strong reactions in Nigeria and raising regional concerns over its wider implications. From Abuja, WADR's Usman Umar reports.
The Nigerian government has expressed deep concern over Washington's latest visa policy revision, which now restricts non-immigrant visas for Nigerian citizens to just 3 months with a single entry. In a statement by the Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson, Kimebe Ebienfa described the move as troubling, particularly in light of the long-standing diplomatic, economic and security ties between Nigeria and the United States. While the U.S. Embassy in Abuja clarified that visas issued before July 8, 2025 remain valid under their original terms, the new restrictions will apply to all new applicants. This change is expected to have ripple effects beyond Nigeria's borders, affecting interregional business, student mobility and collaborative development initiatives across West Africa. Maurice Ebam, a legal practitioner, says the decision raises questions about reciprocity and the broader implications of perceived diplomatic imbalance.
We have the African Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. If we get it right, we have a blueprint already. We need they say God bless us with everything but curse us with bad leadership. We need to get it right. We need to be proactive. We need to be patriotic. We are not patriotic enough. We think that because consign you, or because if you chop 3 square meals, the next person problem is not your problem. But as Nigerians, as Africa, we need to change this mindset. We need to re-educate ourselves.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says diplomatic engagement is underway to seek a reversal or reconsideration of the policy. Nigeria is urging Washington to reflect on its global responsibilities and uphold principles of fairness, mutual respect and cooperation. Analysts say the policy shift, if sustained, may not only strain U.S.-Nigeria relations, but could also trigger similar measures by other governments, complicating movement and partnerships for citizens of Africa's most populous nation and its neighbors. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has highlighted both the achievements and current challenges facing the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Recognized as one of the most successful regional organizations in Africa, ECOWAS played a pivotal role in fostering regional stability, economic development and peace. However, Sirleaf expressed concern over recent signs of disunity among member states, stating that some countries in the region have decided to forge their path, which is most unfortunate. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Liberia's former president reiterated that strong leadership is needed to reunite and strengthen the bloc. Sirleaf praised Sierra Leone's president and ECOWAS chair Julius Maada Bio, noting his leadership combined with the expertise of seasoned African leaders like Ghana, Nigeria, and others could help foster cohesion among member states. She also warned of external forces and internal security threats, including border instability that could threaten regional stability.
ECOWAS has been very successful, but right now there are difficulties. Many of our states have decided that they do not want to continue to be part of this union, that they would prefer to seek another path in their search for progress. I think that's most unfortunate because we need all the voices in these tumultuous times, in these difficult global issues that we all are going to face.
She pointed to the African Continental Free Trade Area as a flagship initiative, but acknowledged that to secure the continent's future aspirations, such as the ambitious Africa 2063 blueprint, must be translated into tangible actions.
A new vision to achieve the integration of Africa. The African Continental Trade Agreement is our flagship operations. Not much has happened. Most of our countries are not integrated, and that requires a lot of infrastructure development.
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf urged African leaders to collaborate with a shared purpose by building an inclusive, prosperous, and integrated Africa poised to face the future with confidence and strength. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. We are also live on Facebook at WADR English Service, as well as YouTube at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Togolese government justifies a security crackdown on protesters in late June as it tracks down organizers. 5 African leaders commenced talks with U.S. President Trump on matters of economy, trade and security cooperation. And the Federation of Islamic Association in Burkina Faso present a document to deconstruct terrorist ideology. Still ahead in the news, Ghana's President Mahama receives letter of credence from Portuguese ambassador to Côte d'Ivoire to deepen bilateral relations. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let me take you to Ghana, where President John Dramani Mahama has received a letter of credence from the Portuguese ambassador to Côte d'Ivoire at the Flagstaff House. President Mahama welcomed the ambassador and reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to deepening bilateral relations with Portugal in areas of trade, education, and tourism. He noted that the two countries share history ties and expressed optimism about the future cooperation. President Mahama.
So, there's so many opportunities that we have here. And then also with the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's possible to reach a market size of 1.3 billion people in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so we believe that forging stronger economic ties and inviting more Portuguese business people to come and do business in Ghana would be a win-win, both in terms of I note the visit of my predecessor last year to Portugal. It was a high point of our relationship, and we hope that we'll be able to continue from that point. And so we want to warmly welcome you. West Africa currently faces problems to do with violent extremism, especially in the Sahel. And we are partnering with several of the countries in the EU, France, UK, Germany, and also with America in terms of building up the capacity to be able to resolve the issues of violent extremism in the Sahel. ECOWAS has gone through a bit of issues with 3 of the countries deciding to leave ECOWAS, but we're still in continuous dialogue with them.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's join Sankole Janko for the press review.
We begin today's press review with the Standard newspaper. The lead story on the Standard newspaper reads, Government taking due diligence despite U.S. pressure for Starlink's license. That's the lead story on the foreign newspaper. Seni Modunjai appointed foreign minister. Before his appointment as the new foreign minister, Seni Modunjai was the Minister of Defense. Minister Cisse says Russia oil scandal investigation findings not yet formalized. And this one is very interesting because Joseph Koli is the new IEC chairman. Before his promotion as the chairman, Joseph Koli was the deputy chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, and now he's been appointed as the chairman, replacing Aliu Momar Njai. IDB approves $32.2 million for school medicine at UTG Faraba campus. Court dismisses Creed Energy suit against Access Bank. Let's move on to the Point newspaper, and the lead story on the Point newspaper. Government withdraws Tambedu's ICJ nomination. But Tambedu was the former Minister of Justice and the Attorney General as well, and the government had supported his candidacy for a position in international criminal justice. But now it's been reported that the government has withdrawn their support for his candidacy. Alleged State House theft won't be investigated, according to Vice President Mohamed Jallow. Now, let's move on to the Foreign newspaper, and the lead story on the Foreign newspaper reads, Mayor Rohi Malik Law makes stunning U-turn on local government commission of inquiry. FPAC demands explanation on over $2 million procurement by Farafenye General Hospital. Interior Minister warns against laissez-passer levies, and this one is about migration. It reads, 25 Gambians deported from EU countries with majority from Germany. These are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies.
Thank you very much, Sankole Janko, with the press review from the Gambia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview takes us back to Nigeria, where the government has voiced a strong concern over a recent decision by the United States to limit non-immigrant visas and Nigerians to just 3-month single entry. The policy shift, which took effect on July 8, 2025, has drawn criticism for its potential to disrupt economic ties, education opportunities, and regional cooperation across West Africa. Our guest interview with our correspondent Usma Umam speaks with international migration and development consultant Dr. Paul Nwanko to unpack the implications of this development on Nigeria and the wider sub-region.
One, yes, a cause of worry. No, for another reason, which I'm going to explain quickly. But I think what the United States has done, in international diplomacy and relation, is based on reciprocity. Do me, I do you, kind of. The kind of policy you give us is what we return to you. Don't forget that before now, the U.S. used to grant 5 years visa to Nigerians, especially non-immigrant visa. The one that is not seeking permanent residence or citizenship can have a visa of up to 5 years. Initially, it was 2 years, and later they got it to 5 years with multiple entry. But what the implication of this is that once you are applying for a visa that is not permanent residence, it's not for citizenship, that you are going to have just one single entry and it's for 3 months. And after 3 months, you must always renew it, should you stay longer. So that is what the policy is about. Don't also forget that Nigeria has a policy of granting 1-year visa to United States citizens, renewable and all of that. So I think they have reviewed that. Like I said, it is about reciprocity. Whatever you give to me is what I give to you. But on the side of Nigerians,
yes,
who are traveling, this is where the problem is. It means that you have to go through the immigration, bureaucracy again each 3 months if you wish to stay more than 3 months, 90 days. So this is the problem here. And I think it's a source of worry, and I expect Nigerian diplomatic community, especially Nigerian government, to wade into this matter. Because as much as you think it is not a problem, it is going to create a lot of problems for people. Of course, you know that North America, especially the United States, is one of the places that Nigerian citizens like to go to for various reasons, migration, whatever it is, and all of that. So I think that it should be a worry, because for someone who is going to school, that means that every 90 days you have to be back to the United States, immigration department to clear yourself and get a renewal. And this may be a course of 3 years, and it is a problem.
All right. Although the Foreign Affairs Ministry has released a statement in this regard, calling on the United States government to reconsider, but should this stay, how would you advise Nigerians who will definitely be affected by this policy? What would you advise them to do going forward?
Okay, my advice would be to Nigerians, because although the Nigerian government has asked the United States, but that does not mean Nigeria is a sovereign state as well as the United States. So they decide what they do with any country. It is now for you to decide how you respond. So for me, I think Nigerian government should up their diplomacy and be able to do, a lot of other, behind the scene negotiation, so that this will favor Nigerians who are traveling.
I know that over the years, organizations such as yours have been involved in advocating for regular migration. Do you think policies such as this will encourage people to, follow through the regular processes, or it will impact on your calls, and this may end up encouraging people to follow it through the back door?
Yes, it will actually encourage following the back door even more. It will increase irregular migration, because as much as possible, people will also want to travel. But again, they will have to create other ways of beating the system, and that is what it is about. I am worried that this will also create, other opportunities for smugglers and, human traffickers to take advantage of what is happening and then begin to up their game. So I think the United States will also need to reconsider their position on Nigeria. It is the largest country in Africa by population and by economy, one of the largest. And I think it is in the interest of both countries to negotiate favorable visa policy that will favor Nigerians and as well the United States, both in trade and economic relations.
Mr. Paul Wanko is an international migration and development consultant. And in sports this evening, from some development of the Women's African Cup of Nations ongoing this evening at the Labi Saud Stadium, two opposing paths will collide. Nigeria, having comfortably defeated Tunisia 3-0, can advance to the quarterfinals with quiet confidence, while Botswana, beaten earlier by Algeria by a lone goal, is already playing for survival. On one side, strength, and on the other side, fear is sinking too quickly between the Super Falcons and the Mouse of Botswana. There will be quite a battle. It will be quite a battle this evening. And outside the continent, Tottenham have agreed a €55 million fees for West Ham to sign midfielder Mohamed Kudus. The Ghanaian international is now set to have a medical before signing a long-term contract. The Hammers have rejected an initial €50 million last week, but a deal has now been clinched. And with that, we've come to the end of this afternoon's edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Fali Luso for the technical assistance, together with Umu Danyoko. And do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our environment flagship program, Enviroscope, with Abdullah Hassan. I am Christopher Ticho. Good afternoon and enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth